Well, my name is Joey, and at 26, just joining the conversation to see, you know, basically more to listen than to speak earlier. I really want to say too much right now and kind of get a feel out for what's the topic, and then I could probably come in later.
That is no
Okay.
problem.
Let Akim introduce himself and
Hmm.
then I'll start after.
I think Akin he probably get disconnected or something like that. And yeah.
So what I'll be diving into here is not just a you know an explanation of who I am, but an explanation of why I've chosen to become this way. So let's just start the awareness right off the bat. Because, kind of I late joined and stuff like that, and I realized a conversation hasn't even been started. So I like to start one. So let's talk about love. One of the deepest topics that we can possibly talk about tonight. So this will be fire right off of the bat in terms of talking about love. So I am Justin, as Shane said. I do a little bit of everything, jack of all trades. I do a lot of research and, just basically keep an open mind so that I can keep growing and learning and expanding. And some of the things that I've come to understand in terms of keeping this open mind, I ended up venturing a little bit into yoga. In venturing into yoga, one of the key factors that I was unaware of before, but now I am aware of, is that everything starts and ends with me. What do I mean by this? I was once a person who used to search for love outside of myself. I used to look for love in others. I used to look for love, from my female companions. I used to basically go out of my way to try and find love outside of myself. Feeling to realize this very powerful tip that I'm about to share with you guys here is that searching for love outside of yourself is like neglecting the fact that you are already loved,
Right.
which is like neglecting the fact that your love is not something that external from you. So why was I thinking that that was something to be found outside of me? Well, this issue stemmed from me growing up, so I'm sharing a little bit of my past story too. When I grew up without a mother in my life. I was basically, you know, I had also find my way on my own because my father was there, but he never really was there at the same time. So it was a matter of having to figure shit out. And I thought that figuring this shit out meant that I can only get it from others, or I can only get it out on the outside, which had me basically chasing a tail, spinning top in mud, running around in circles, looking for the answers outside when it was never on the outside. The love that I was looking for was always within me. How did I come across grasping this? Was when I fully started to integrate that love that I was searching for. I use yoga as a tool of integrating this love, and I also use following my passions as a tool of integrating this love. I also use the tools of respecting myself to integrate this love because in order for me to genuinely have self love, I must have self respect for myself. And I must understand that the love that I want, I do not lack. This helped me to gain more clarity to what love is. Now, all of this being said, I still love love on the outside.
Yeah, Justin, you don't mind if I jump in or cutting you off by chance? Because
No, no
after hearing
problem.
a little bit about what you talk about now, I could actually know what we're talking about now, right? So,
It's
bro,
it's a
I just
wide
want to
it's
tell
a
you,
wide topic.
I just
Let's
want to tell
wait.
you, give yourself good credit, right? Because I can tell you're a conscious man, and everything you know said there resonate with me well. Because relationships have a funny way of you like I show you what it was probably in a dark place already for you to learn that you had to
Multiple
find
dark nights for the soul.
you had to find God. You really had to find you had to befriend God, I would say. Make God your best friend first, right? And then you can start loving yourself now. But because as humans, right, we are social beings, right? Like there's only so much you could do on your own. If you don't have that support system, it's very, very hard. Like you know how it is to be out there as a not floating or not, inflating your own head, but you know to yourself what you know, right? You know what to be true, you know what you're about, you know what's your intentions when you're out there. And if you don't have that support system, like having the right friends, the right people, it's very hard to stay stable now, boy. Like to you know, but very recently, I mean, even before joining this call, I recently have my team of friends who I would say like I finally have the friendships I was looking for years. And those things only recently happened after doing pranayama breathing, right? And I learned it from a man who almost died. He was on his like all he could have do was focus on his breathing technique, right? That's all he had. All he had was his breath. And I rather not talk about his story and what he went through to experience that. But when he was basically dying, he was basically dying and bleeding out, and all he could do was breathe. And he was by himself in the forest, right? Basically, he's a coconut climber, right? He was a man climbing coconut trees, cleaning trees, and he was living off, living like he was selling coconuts and stuff, right? But he fall off a tree a day and landed on his head and tumble and break up your rib, break up, right? Mash up all the teeth like going and thing, real mad thing. But he almost died, and he said that his his like subconsciously went into a position to just breathe now, boy. Right? A very advanced technique. He just felt like he just gained from the universe, and it stick with him now. He say his life changed after he did the breathing for about an hour. He walked out the forest like a warrior, like he just went to battle on the battlefield. And it sounds kind of thing, but I was already when I met him, I was already very familiar with how powerful the breath of life is. How we take breathing for granted. And I don't know if you know about Wim Hof, the Iceman, and how he does his cool plunges and whatnot. How there's actually warm up the body through the breath work, right?
I
And
actually do a lot of full plunges to myself.
right. I
not
thought you would
not
have
to
for
the
sure. When
extent
it, yeah,
that they do though, because I just do it with natural fresh spring water, but I have an idea of what it is.
right. So yeah, I sent Shane a video recently. We're performing a recent breathwork session, and I actually passed out, and I caught it on video for the first time. And it's very advanced. It's more like a I like to call it a yin and yang breathing because I look real angry when I'm breathing in, and I look real happy when I'm breathing out now way. So it's like a real angry and joyful. It's like
At the same time.
yeah. So it's he well because I was
So
explaining that.
before you go a little
Mhm,
too further, that's
yeah.
something I want to brush up on also before
Mhm,
I forget. Not that I think I will
mhm,
forget, but I just want to get it added fresh. So one of
mhm.
the things that you said earlier on was about you can't find love unless you connect to God.
Correct.
Unless you connect to the divine, unless you learn how to basically understand that, put God first, right?
Mhm,
And I want to share this with you. Now, just keep an open mind. This is just my perspective here. This is what also yoga has taught me. God, the divine. In terms of when I think of the divine, in terms of when I think about the omnipotent, I think of the omnipotent as a state of my intuition, meaning that is the higher version of myself. But it is still who I am. So in this physical realm, I'm a physical human being. I am finite. I am limited based on my physical appearance. But on my spiritual appearance, I am infinite. There are no limits to what it is that I can and cannot do. Because we live in a world of a multi layered spectrum. The spiritual aspect is not disconnected from the physical aspect. They are all intertwined and they are all interconnected. So I've learned that connecting to the divine, to God, starts from connecting with it. And this is where I want to emphasize on one of the very vital things that you said earlier on too, in terms of when he rolled and he was on his deathbed and he was just the only thing he could have focused on was breathing. This is
Right.
why I would like to say the power of breath, the power of breathing. Most people wait until they reach in the deathbed, then to acknowledge
Knowledge
that
it. Hmm.
breath is life.
All right,
Most people wait until they die to acknowledge that.
Right.
And this is why breath is the omnipotent in itself because it brings you into the presence. One conscious breath takes you immediately into the present moment. And the divine is omnipresent.
all right,
It is
guys.
present within everything,
Y'all hear me?
within yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanna introduce, Chief
Shane,
Minwab.
Justin was now talking, right? It wasn't him.
Yeah, but
He want to introduce Chief,
yeah,
but
I wanna.
Chief is a wise man that sit down and basically listening to, but she want to
Oh,
cut, so go ahead.
oh, I thought he might have. Sometimes the auditors be thinking about the way he just talk over here. I thought he wasn't hearing it.
She a little excited for the Chief right now. Chief have
Oh,
a very discerning look on his face right now.
All right, Chief.
Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon.
you know.
Greetings to everyone in the panel. Greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings to you too, man.
Just go through. Sorry about that.
So as I was just saying,
Mm.
let's emphasize on the breath, as you were saying, the breath, the breathing.
Mhm.
He then gained that conscious awareness that breath is all you have, meaning that the life that is on the brink now of basically not having anymore. He's kind of forced now to acknowledge that. Wait a minute. What matters more than life itself? Nothing else really matters. And everything else in this physical realm, it's just there for us to use as tools. I love material things too. I'm a material guy too. I enjoy material things.
We
But
all live in the interior realm, whether we like it or not, right?
right,
But we must not get vanity. We must not
not we
you
must
know
not get engrossed in it to the point where it is put on a pedestal in front of our souls.
correct.
So in
Correct.
terms of being forced down that line now because he's
Yeah.
on his deathbed, etc., he then realized that life is what matters the most. So this is why he just wanted to, this is just based on my perspective too, to feel the last couple breaths that he's having. Just be able to feel a little bit, and you never know if he will die here or if he will be alive. I think suspect he's
Yeah.
still alive.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But
Thank God. Thank God if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have. I think I tell him all the time, I tell him he changed my life pretty bad. Everything around me changed, my friends, my relationship, my partner, things just real like you don't like it's just something that's it felt like lights went off in my head now, boy. Like dark areas of my head, like in my brain, just lights went off now, boy. When I started doing our practice and everything else, it just trickled along into every other aspect of my life now, boy. I can tell people that and they might think I'm crazy or whatever, but I really don't give up. You understand?
it doesn't matter what people
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
It really doesn't matter. So a
Hmm.
lot of what I'm sharing here with you now, as fluent as I am speaking it, I was once afraid to say these things because a lot of people would have looked at, oh, you the devil, use this, use that, and
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
these type of
yeah.
different things. But now I've reached at this
Kind of
point where,
obvious thing is that way.
yeah, I understand I understand
Yeah,
who I am on a deep level,
yeah, yeah.
on a spiritual level,
Right.
not on just the physical level. So now I put more soul driven, you know, ways of living on the
Right.
forefront. That being
Right.
said, yet again, I still use the material. I still do things and acquire certain material things. But the first thing that I do, I put soul first. I put connection first. I put
Yeah.
alignment first. And then I focus on everything else.
So
Because
true. Hmm.
it's in doing this, it taught me that everything, and like I started this starts and ends with you. And I'll let someone else take the floor then.
Chief will jump in. Anybody else want to jump in?
I am actually staying very quiet today. I'm going to be listening.
You listening today?
I'm taking in everything all you have to say today. Yes, I'm listening today. I'm gonna jump off and join back on my laptop, okay?
All right, no problem.
Because
Right.
have it or not, I have another thing going on as well. So
All right.
multitasking.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say that, this is what the topic is about. The topic is about, with awareness, with awareness, things change, right? It brings change. So now that, you know, I don't know if you all see it, but a lot of people are starting to be more aware of a lot of things now. So when we think that people is not becoming aware, to trust and believe, a lot of people are starting to open up their eyes more, you know, and y- I was amazed to just like when I met, I remember like meeting Justin. One time I was like, what? This guy does think a lot like me, you know? And then, well, Joey, we always had that conscious mind, So,
Correct. Yeah.
and even Lashonda, I always know Lashonda to be, that aware sister, you know?
Oh.
And I think like right now, there are a lot of things that going on that we may not be aware of. And but the most important thing is we are aware of now. Not so? We know where we are now. Do you know where you are? Do you know what is around you? Are you able to control what happens with you right now?
I don't know. Are you?
How far can a conversation go?
How deep the rabbit hole goes, there's no end to that.
You know?
So this is where
I think.
just go deep
Yeah.
or go home, right?
Well, I'm not a if you don't mind me say, I'm not a far-fetched man, right? A lot of things that I believe spiritually, I try to connect back with the science. I try to, not be too insane now, but not to be too, not. I don't want to use something I can't really prove now. I can't really like on like for example, if I told somebody I learned while under the influence of psilocybin mushrooms that the universal language is frequency, right? If I said that to somebody, right, for you to, if you think that's far fetched, you not you not paying attention to what really going on. Like you're not up to date now. Like you're not at the frontier of the the very smallest piece of matter you could think of is vibrations. I mean, look how electricity does work. Positive and negative charge. I mean, understand how phones and technologies work on a whole is on a kind of quantum realm within this one now, boy. Is one that the eyes can't really see and but there. It's very much there. I mean, just take a teaser and shock yourself. Like, how the hell that is work? You understand? So you could see it, it's just there's a lot of ways you could see that it's real. These things exist. It's just, it's just how to really get it across to somebody. But yeah, when I told Shane I'll probably repeat it since Justin. I think Lashonda probably heard it before. I think Lashonda was on the call last time, and Shane?
Yeah.
When right, okay. So I'll repeat it for Justin and Chief. So while I was in a dark place in my life and I was in the gym, had a failed relationship. So, typical thing. You go to the gym, you work on yourself, right? And my trainer was actually talking about talking about psilocybin mushrooms and how it could be used for mental thing. Da, 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 da. But he was talking to somebody else. He wasn't talking to me now, boy. Or the next client. So I overheard the conversation and I was like, what do you ask wrong at all? Oh, what are you talking about? Why mushrooms? You're mad, man. Or, thinking things like, I was programmed to, of other people's opinions and things that they don't know they attack. So I adopted those same ideology. And then I say, you know what? You tell me, you say, you're going on, you're ignorant. You really don't know what you're talking about. Do your research. I say, you know what? You're right. I really don't know what I'm talking about. I'll do my research, right? Fast forward now, after learning, and the more I learn about it, I say, the more, hey, this thing actually making real sense. So, funny enough, our phones be listening to me, right? You know how this thing does work. And somebody reached out to me out of the blue, and it just so happened that he had what I was looking for.
Right.
So, it's just a godsend. And I felt godsend. It felt like too good to be true now, boy. Like it was just not a coincidence for this person to show up at that time, right? After I now do my research. So, I microdosed, right? And I never took a full dose to like a full heroic dose. So no, I just probably more up to a gram, right? But it was really potent. So my intentions going into it, I mean, I had a notepad, I had a pen, and I just wanted to get close with God now, boy, because at that point of time, I wasn't an atheist, but I wasn't very connected to any religion now, boy. Like I was too fair now, boy. I want to be fair to everybody and to all religions, and it was impossible to be like that, being in one and choosing one and running with it, because I didn't want to be a fake follower. No. I didn't want to just, you're there, but because the more extremist I become was the more terrible I felt now way, like unfair to my intelligence. So I couldn't do that. And but I always believe in God. So that's why I say I was not atheist, So um so my intentions going into the trip was to God to speak to me in a way, to communicate with me or however he want to get a message to me, talk to me. Right. And when things were real silent, my capability of hearing, my hearing ability was like amplified. Like that ding in the ears you get when things are all silent. My brain was able to latch onto that sound, wherever that pure tone was, and just amplify it. And the more I tuned in, the more I focused on that sound, it felt like my body was healing in a way. It felt like things inside me that it's like I can't really explain it to somebody. Something you had to feel now, boy, experience yourself. And that was real, real powerful. And I learned from that day moving forward that there is a divine being, there is something beyond, there is a reason why all this energy is out there. There is something behind it now, boy. There is a creator. I'm not saying he fair, I'm not saying he all loving and whatnot. I'm not saying that at all. Because there is flaws to the material world. Yes, I think as perfect as we claim religion as perfect as religions claim gods to be. I don't think that's completely true now, boy, because of the flaws of it's like there is perfection in imperfection now, boy. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just
I completely understand where it is you're coming from.
So what?
yeah, that's exactly how I view the world on where it comes like that. But I have respect for him now, boy. I have respect for God, regardless of the imperfection in the creation now, because I was just, I mean, can we make something that's perfect that we can say is 100% perfect because our neighbor come out and bring out something better and keep improving and improving and you know what I mean?
Is
It
it
doesn't
is
exist. It
it
doesn't. Yeah.
is it
Mm.
is it imperfection though?
No, Deshaun, let you take the words right out of my mouth. So I want to brush on one. I want to brush up on some things that you said again there too, in
Mm.
terms of you know
Um,
God being fun. Who's speaking?
yeah, just you hearing me well, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Right. So, well, I mean, I'm new to your discussion and this type of thing. Yeah, I came in. I got an invite from Shane. I know Shane personally. I met him, right? But I don't know if Shane kind of misinterpret what I deal with and what I am about, right? So because we on a platform that is not owned by any of us here, right? And because of my position, I'd have to state my claim at this point before I carry on, right? I am Chief Minwab, right? Chief of Kariri and Alubera, Chief of the Tamanakos, the Arwakas, the Chaimas, and the Kumanagotos people, right? On this island, we have a history, is recorded. I took the documents out and brought it forward. And my people do support religion 100%. As a matter of fact, the reason places like San Grande got its name and San Chiquito got its name is because the invaders who invaded these lands came with religion, and we killed 4 ton of them in one sitting and couple 100,000 of them in others, right? So that's just to say the least. What we as indigenous people do, we respect the right of any being to have a choice. So we do have no problem with that. What we don't do is we don't respect religion 100%. We can't because our ancestors killed for that. And we are people who venerate our ancestors. And so we do have no respect for no religion, absolutely none at all. We do have respect for no word named God. God is a type, right? So if you're talking about God, you need to name it God and that type of concept. So I don't want to sound like a cog in the wheel, but this is not my place here. And if that is the case, I would just slide out and allow you all to continue. But there is no, I don't deal with concepts on religion and that type of slow meditation. I can't get myself tied into that on a platform that none of you all own. We operate on a premise that anything you say or do could be used against you. So I wouldn't be a part of any God discussion or anything on that level.
Yeah.
Right? No
Or
disrespect.
Chief,
I ain't
if
finished
you don't mind me ask you a quick question
I
on
haven't
as in
finished yet. I haven't
uh
finished yet.
oh
And
okay.
there's another reason why I don't win platforms like this. The proper protocol for when a chief speaking is to wait till he's finished and then you make your point. In ancient times, you cut him across, you'd lose your head. Right? So this is why we don't really subject ourselves to certain platforms and things, because we don't want to come across as rough to anybody. It's just a matter that we indigenous and we ain't playing, we indigenous for real. Right? So because of them things, certain things I wouldn't support 100%. Right? So with that said, Joey, you could go ahead and make your point.
Yo, I was just a question for you when you on what you were just saying there. So
All right, feel free.
I was gonna ask you what is, since it is the, when I say God, right? I was just what most people refer to as God or something divine, an entity beyond, but beyond us, right? Beyond the human, because as far as we know, on the planet, we is the apex predator on this planet, right? When it comes to our way of thinking, our conscious mind, right? But beyond Earth, beyond the universe, what is that now? But or who or what is that? So I just wanted to ask you, since this you don't really want to dabble too much into God, I just want to know what you believe in regards to something beyond humanity.
All right. So because I mean we now meeting each other and thing, you probably wouldn't understand where I'm coming from. But words like human, words like apex predator and them type of things, we do refer to and we do acquiesce to either. Right? Human, according to their terminology and the legalese, it means sea monster. So I'm not a human. Right? Then believe. The indigenous people do operate on the premise of belief at no point in time existing. The word belief means to accept things without proof. So the indigenous people operate on knowledge. What we have is knowledge of our ancestral way, and our ancestral way of life has been proven for millions of years, and it still continues to be proven, right? As in terms of what you're trying to equate to in terms of a God, our concept, you would can't understand that, and I'll just simply put it this way. An English person who could only speak English can't think in French. Neither a French person who could only speak French, he can't think in Spanish. So basically, for me to explain my level of divinities to you, we'd have to step out of this language and then I'd lose you, right? But basically, the best way I could give it in a concept is the best word in your language or in the English language is ALL, all, right? So let me create a little concept around that word, right? Everything that you think you know and everything that you don't know, it belongs there. Every gender that you could think about, everything that they create, it in there. Everything that is evil, everything that is what you call good is there as well, right? In our concept, in our language, we call it tempter, right? It has no gender. It breaks down into nothing. It is just exists. It's been always there. It will always be there, right? Within that, it has different what you call vibrational frequencies. It manifests, and thus out of vibrational frequencies, it put matter to form, antimatter to form, and thus we have creation and that type of thing, right? So the indigenous concept operates on what we call, what they now call them today, people like Michio Kaku, one day they call them type 1 civilization. We operate on type 0 civilization. We see ourselves as gods and goddesses and nothing removed, right? So this is our concept on divinity. This is what we carry as dear to our heart, and this is our way of our ancestors. So as opposed to a being or something like that overseeing everything or anything like that, we are records of beings, we are records of all type of things. So we don't carry no concept on a one being having no dominion over everything and all things in the cosmos. And we do have concepts of worship. We look at that as what you call primitive civilization. Any civilization that has to worship something outside of themselves for redemption or anything like that, it's what we consider primitive, right? And when I say primitive, I don't mean it like prime in the true sense it's supposed to be meant. I mean like backward, nonsensical, right? So things like belief and that type of thing, we do operate on that premise, right? We operate on the premise of knowledge. If that should kind of clarify your question, just confirm for me, Joey.
Yeah.
I believe
So
what they're trying to,
I,
yeah.
I want to,
Justin, you want to talk
I
first?
want to speak to the chief about something here.
Now let Justin
So there are
All right,
two.
let Joey make his point now.
one at a time.
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
I was just gonna say, and I think I understand what it is you're trying to say. So you all operate on. I would agree. So on an individual level, we are gods. We are, well, I would say we are extension of. We have our essence of the creator of the universe. A piece of him is in us, because that's how we could even conceptualize the idea of him. So I believe he exists because we can actually adopt the thinking of something.
No, that is not what that is not what I'm
No, no,
saying. I
I
am
didn't
not
say that.
putting a
I didn't say
gender
that.
thing.
I didn't say that.
Oh,
I
okay.
said y'all are only believe that on an individual level, y'all are gods, and that's. But I just extended. I understand what you mean. I can agree with that, but I just think it's a fragment from the, you know, the one who started it now, boy. But okay, yeah, just so we understand.
So
Justin,
Mhm.
chief,
let Aaron jump in a bit now. He had his hand up for a little while.
Man, tired, guys. Good night.
Fair
All
enough.
right,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
you can see everyone. Now, I just came onto this because, again, I know Shane, well, I've collaborated with him. He sent my message. I'm not sure what it was about. And like the chief, I don't dabble into, I try to keep away from religious conversations and beliefs and those type of things. I do really subscribe to those things, right? I might thinking is slightly different as compared to the to everybody else. So I'm I, I would just probably stick around a little bit, but I may leave, but I will leave respectfully. I did not know it was about. I'm making an assumption yet. So before I
Yeah.
make my assumption, so yeah, I don't want to make an assumption. So can you please tell me what it is about? I can know if it's something that I would like to be a part of or not, because I try not to. I don't want to mash nobody corn and
All right.
come across as
All right.
that's
So
not fair. Let me finish say what I was going to say because it's an alignment to exactly this. So Shane, as I was about to ask the chief, he said that we may not understand, and I would love to say that's a error because this is what this is here for. This platform is here for awareness. The topic just maybe strayed a little bit into religious terms, but It's not
Right.
about religion. It's
Correct.
about awareness. It's about raising awareness. So, in understanding the chief's perspective and the chief's opinion, chief, I agree with a lot of things that you say. I do not worship. This is why I started this conversation earlier on speaking about love. My love is not external from me. So when it comes to the omnipotent, this is why I mostly say divine. But I could also understand Joey. Joey has not yet orientated and changed his word and his figure of speech, the way he would say things. But that doesn't make him finite and you superior. So some of the things that I would like to say that I don't agree with is the fact that you look at yourself higher than him, which is okay in your world.
Oh, you
But
pick up that too.
the truth is for me, everybody's face level, because the divine in you sees the divine in me, and the divine in me sees the divine in you. So this is also where I understand Joey's opinion in terms of where he was sharing, the essence. It is, mere fragments. This is why you can say or state that you are a God. Because the
Exactly.
God
Yeah.
within me is also within you. So I am God. I love how you say that too, the all. When it comes to the all, I am the divine. I am the omnipotent, but I don't know it all.
Mm.
This is why this conversation is important, to raise awareness, to learn from each other, to listen to each other, and to just gain deeper insights and deeper, knowledge. So, in assuming that we are not open to learning, I would like to say on behalf of myself, that is what I am here for. But I also know what it is I know. So, I want to share a little bit with you here, Chief. A lot of the history that you would have, I don't have. But does that mean that because you have that knowledge of the past history, that I may not have in terms of the terminology or the language that you may speak in, does it mean that you know more than me? That's just a
Mm.
question.
All right, so allow you to speak just now, right? And I just wait to get something. I made no indication of me being better than anybody. I just made the clarification that I was invited and the discussion is not something that I would be a part of. So something we had to do here if we had to continue. Just now you spoke for yourself and you spoke for me. And while I am present, right, I would request that you do not do that anymore, right? Because that's what we call in legal terms leading the witness, right? So you wouldn't be leading
You
anything
did
I
the
say,
same exact thing to Joey just now, brother. When you tell him, yeah, you don't think he will understand, but
Exactly.
continue.
He just did the exact same
Continue,
thing.
continue, though.
Yeah.
Continue.
All right,
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm gonna ask you a question then.
Feel free.
What is tempter?
Like I just said, I don't have the knowledge of your language. I'm not even going to
Right.
say that I have the knowledge of that.
So by me saying that I think you may, may, may not understand, how is that anything for any concept that you're trying to draw that I trying to convey?
I didn't remember hearing it. You said May because it didn't sound like it
I am
didn't.
recording this right now and I could play it back
Okay.
for you.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll stay recording it too.
Yeah.
It's a
All
recorded
right.
conversation.
He did say May, guys. I'm listening. He did say May.
I
Thank you very much, Goddess. All right. So what was the next question?
Let's
You
get
have
Just
a
Aaron.
question to ask?
Let's get Aaron a chance
no
again.
no
Eh?
no. My question was not answered as yet. We spin in circles and no one answered my question.
Okay.
And can you all please answer my question so I can decide if it's I want to be a part of this because I don't want to mash nobody con and I want to be respectful to everyone. Like everybody should be respectful to me the same way. So can you all explain to me exactly what this is about and I can know if it's something I would like to be part of or not.
All right. So what this conversation is about is basically, knowing that with awareness, everything changes within
Awareness
yourself,
of what?
with individual, right? So once you are aware that you have control over what is going on right now, That is what I am speaking about. I am not speaking about religion. I am not speaking about any of that. Basically, we dived a bit into that conversation where, Joey and, well, in fact, the conversation started with Justin, where he was speaking about, how he was able to unlock his awareness through meditation and stuff like that. And then um, Joey spoke about him doing pranayama, is it, Joey?
Well, pranayama. Pranayama is what the person who taught me, the mentor who taught me, he calls it pranayama breathing. So I refer it to that. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So that he those are tools that they used to become aware, and that open their eyes to see that there are a lot of things around us that we do not know. Like, for example, things that going on in our country right now, things that are going on in the world right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be spirit. It doesn't need to be based on religion or anything. But we know that religion is a topic that is always reoccurring in any conversation that we having, which that my goal for that is really and truly that we could be able to just respect us as an individual, us as a person, you know, and
Yeah.
you know,
Shane, if you don't mind,
bring that unity now.
Shane,
Because,
if you don't mind, add to what you say there, right? If you don't mind, I add to it. Um,
well, we have
I would.
Level
Mhm.
that had his hand up as well too. So I would like to
I know, but is value adding value to what you just said. I'll just say, I think it's important for us to have the conversation. I know Aaron said he doesn't really want to dabble in the conversation of religion, but how else are we going to learn? How else are you going to, how else are we all going? Could we learn something from you in the conversation? So I know people avoid religion, but I think it's important for us not to run away.
so what
I think.
I could answer that. I could answer that
Mm.
because we could learn about what is about being aware through ourselves, through our mind. Just by sitting in a quiet place and not saying that I am taking God out of the presence, or I do know that there's a creator. I know that there's a higher force, but my awareness comes from me, from self. you know so I could speak for as I could speak for me. But I want to hear Lemuel, and then after we will hear Lashonda. Lem, I think Lem get in trouble. Lashonda, you could go ahead, and then if Lem comes back, he would just jump back in.
All right, good afternoon. So basically what you're saying, Shane, is that I just want to break it down so everybody could understand. What you're saying is that this platform is for learning, basically, where we could learn about different walks of life and all of these different things and that's what you're saying, right? I just asking just to make sure.
So the community that I'm trying to build is a community
Mm-hmm.
where we are able, yes, to learn from one another. A community that I think I want to build a community with aware persons who is aware of
So self-awareness.
self-awareness and what is going on,
Mm.
especially um we could dive in topics like food, we could dive in topics like economy, we could dive in topics like many different things.
We
And
can even dive in topics of what the chief has to share with us as he's here.
Actually, I was about to say that, and I also have a question for the chief.
yes,
I also have a question for Chief Wab.
so
Um,
I
Chief,
hold
I
on.
would like. Uh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, I personally
No,
want to
no.
apologize to the chief because I sent the chief a message on TikTok for a while now. You know, I wanted him to come, experience, you know, the conversations and stuff like that. And eventually, I wanted Chief to share his insights on what exactly is going on in this place, because there's a lot of things that we do not know about what is going on. And I would like for Chief to, you know, bring that awareness to us. But I think like when he came in and when Aaron came in, we were kind of straying on the topic of religion, you know. So I do apologize to both Aaron and the Chief. Based on, you know, the misunderstanding of where the conversation was heading, but really and truly the conversation was more about awareness, and awareness can be, I realize, like with the topic of awareness, the awareness could be very wide range, but my idea of awareness was, you know, being aware of what is going on around you right now. So
So environmental wise.
everything, everything.
Being aware of stuff.
Yeah. So I would
Okay.
like to hear Lemuel, because Lemuel has been had his hand up. I know his hand hurting right now. I would like to hear Lemuel. Lem, the man raised his hand again, and he who's this one boy? All right, Aaron.
I'll unmute myself. Right, so thanks for the some I'll say clarity. I don't want to say believe, because to believe is not know, is to not know, and also I do not know. So again, it's of I am of opinion that the chief, based on his explanation on what he does, and he made himself very clear. I am of the opinion that he has a lot of value that he can share. I guess that's the reason why you would have followed him, or invited him. I'm of the opinion, because I don't know, so I believe that he shares some insights on the social media and so forth. I don't follow him, I don't know who he is, right? So first time I'm actually so, but I have a lot of, I have some level of understanding, and I've been venturing down particular roads since, especially since COVID and all these different stuff. So I've been venturing, and from ever since. So there's certain things that I would be of the same, I will be of the same understanding, I will agree to, and something I may not agree to. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, everybody have their opinion to share, and their
And I
experience, and
agree to disagree.
they share what they have to share. Again, I literally don't like to get involved in religion and politics, but again, it is what it is. I have no problem. I have no problem. I have no hold for my mouth, so I try to avoid certain things, right? So,
But Aaron, why
yeah.
that is though? If you don't mind me, why is it a conversation to be avoided, or you try to avoid?
Religion, because usually it always gets into it always gets into like a
A
debate,
clash?
a backlash, and I don't like to force or anything on anyone. I think that people needs to be of their own understanding and seek truth or seek understanding, because
Right. Hmm.
again, the system that we have been
Yeah.
that we
You
have
know,
been
you could have a conversation about religion, not force anything. Nobody's forcing their beliefs, you know. We
no,
was
no,
just,
no,
yeah,
I'm not saying, no,
talking.
I'm not saying, I know, I'm not saying that, see, that's not the, see, I personally just don't like to dabble into the conversation. I try to respect people's beliefs, because they have their belief, and I said the believers cannot know, right? So they have their belief, and I try to respect people's belief.
You answer the question.
No, I
Pardon
want
me?
to what was the question?
Hold on,
David
huh?
Bishop, could you please mute yourself a
I
second?
think I think Lemuel by David.
How long are we, man? And the was just going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, go ahead,
What you?
Yeah, I realize, but then they kind of was putting top of mother of
Lem.
LS equals we will. So let me take a time to run on you see that part there. Oh, you could unmute and actually say I come in on you know. Ole, Lem had a little technical difficulty on you. Yeah, technical difficulties. I ran in the shop. I running back to my phone now. I just come to check David. I come in now.
All right.
Shane, so since we have the chief here and we have We have him for I don't know how long. The time. Do you think that we could get the chief to talk to us a little bit based on what it is you want, really? And before he starts, I just want to ask the question. You say, Chief, I remember you saying when people talk about God, because you didn't say that God doesn't exist. You didn't say that. When people talk about God, because they don't like to talk about God, you ask which God. So I'm asking you which God, which God do you answer to?
It's a beautiful question.
Mhm.
Beautiful question. All right, so as I was saying before, God is basically a title. It's a title to some as the most supreme being, a title to others as for different things. But basically, what we as indigenous people uh, practice is we don't see anything else other than ourselves as God and goddesses. So, which God? Myself. Which goddess? My wives, my daughters, and that type of thing. So, that is where we would be coming from. We are aware, however, of the different concepts that are out there because they all stem from our concepts, right? So, we are aware of those, but our concepts are not the same as those. So, which God? Myself, as I say, my wives, my daughters, members of my tribe, and that type of thing. All right. If that answer your
Okay, thank you.
question.
Definitely did.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Chief.
All right. Beautiful. All right.
All right, Chief. So we could have a discussion.
All right.
I do apologize for the misunderstanding before.
Yeah.
You know,
No problem, brother. No problem.
yeah, it's just, as I was telling my brother Joey before that, I kind of doing this is like a action and learning at the same time. You understand?
All
So
right.
with I don't, because I keep saying that I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it, and then I ain't doing it. So it's like, you know what? I say I'm doing it now, and it's kind of like it kind of entwines with the topic, with awareness, everything changes. So my question to you, and what I would love for you to bring awareness of which is, the history of what went on in this beautiful island we call Kariri.
All right. So just before I get into that, we have knowledge of our history because we need to know where we're going right now. Right? So as much as we are aware of the history and we teach a lot of the history, we do that with a purpose. We do that with the intention of changing the narrative that was handed to us. And so we could stand in our proper status as indigenous people and the true, what we would say, for lack of a better word, the true owners or the original people on this island and basically the whole Americas. Right? So with that said, I like the topic awareness, and I like how it, when I came in, it was basically on the idea of spirituality, because what I want to say here, I would like people to think about something for a second, right? Your body exists in here on this planet. It exists with what we will call, some will call spirit, and then some will call something else called soul, right? But a lot of people in this day and time talking a lot of what we call spirituality. I'd say quote unquote for that, right? Spirituality. And it's all about the spiritual. Meanwhile, they exist in here in the physical. Nothing is being done about the physical bondage and the physical awareness of the bondage. And then not, if that is the case, then what happens to the soul? Being that, let's say, we carry the concept of soul, spirit, and physical, right? So in terms of that, I would say the highest spirituality anybody who is a citizen at any corporation on the planet could reach is at least, or at best, sorry, 5% of your spiritual power. Why I would say that is this. Once he's a citizen of a country or a citizen of a corporation, I'd say from, so every time I say a corporation now, not to confuse the panel, every time I say a corporation is what you call a country. I'd explain the terminology corporation in a little bit. But every time you are a citizen of any one of these corporations, you now become what they understand in law, chattel property, right? Which means you have no self-autonomy. And spirituality works hand in hand with self-autonomy, right? So awareness comes with your whole being becoming aware of your current position and state, right? I like how Joey was talking about quantum existence, and that's what indigenous people is all about. In terms of quantum existence, every structure of your existence must be free, right? And it has a way to go about it, and you had to start somewhere. Usually, and more commonsensically, it makes sense to start in the physical, because that's what could be affected the most, right? And physically, all citizens or all corporations are slaves. They are tied to a system that deals their beliefs and concepts is pedophilia, rape, child rape, blood drinking, and all that type of stuff. These are the people who run all the governments on the planet. There is no good government on the planet, and we could prove it. Recently, we had some revelations coming out of the north with all the pedophile rings that was happening and who were involved. When Trump was campaigning, he promised that he was going to release the list, and then when he came up on the list and came in, he said it was a threat to world security, right? Not national security, but world security. There's a reason for that. That's because all world leaders are tied into this, what we will call a cult, quote unquote cult. So from the time you are a citizen of a corporation or country, that is what you're supporting. All Trinidadians support evils against children. All Jamaicans, all Vincentians, all quote United States citizens, all, let me go as far as Japanese, Chinese. Once he's a citizen of that, you're inadvertently supporting these type of ills on the planet, right? We tell you how this come about. In the early timings or the ancient times, people was living on the planet in as what most what we call religious concepts would say was peace, right? Today we have science uncovering certain things. They're calling them the indigenous people, the first peoples in some instances, some the original people, but they could all agree at that point in time the planet was more stable, it had less wars and all that type of thing when these people was in their proper status we'd use, right? Then came along invaders. A lot of people think invaders are what we call in today, quote unquote, white people. But we have uncovered all the records. Well, not, we didn't put all of them in the public domain, but we have covered a majority of records coming from the Spanish government, from the British War Office, and from the French government about the conquest of the Americas. When I say the Americas, I'm speaking about North, Central, and South Americas. That is one America. Panama Canal is a man-made canal, right? So there's one connection that connects us all, right? The conquest of the Americas, the records of them, they record the people who came here and invade the lands as swarthy, woolly-head people. Back in the days, they never used to use the term black, right? That's a new terminology that came about from the late 50s, 60s, right? But they call them swarthy, woolly-head people. We follow them through history on the record as crypto Muslims and crypto Jews, right? On the Spanish record, they are recorded as conversos and moriscos, right? Those were the ones who were responsible for invading these lands, right? To cut a long story short, unless questions carry us in a direction, when they invaded the lands, and just to prove that it was these people, when these people come on the lands, if they was looking different to us, it would have been war immediately, just like what's happening right now on the Kikoa Islands off of India. Anybody looking different to them, they get killed before they touch land. It would have been the same thing in ancient times. But these people were able to come on the land and wage all kind of nefarious war against us. That's because they look similar to us, and that's why they was allowed on the land, right? On the records, they are recorded as Swati and Tani, Tawny. right? Elizabeth spoke about Sir Walter Raleigh. She was in love with him because of his handsome feature and his dark complexion, right? Contrary to what you're pulling up or what we was taught, right?
Right.
So they came onto the land, they conned the indigenous people out of the lands, and then came a significant battle that changed a lot of things throughout the Americas and also in Europe. The Battle of 1699 that gave San Grande its name and San Chiquito its name. It's called the Battle of San Francisco de los Arenales, right? The Battle of Arena. That battle put a serious dent in the colonization schedule that was happening in the Americas. So much so that they had to change their style. And their style was to occupy a small space, find other tribes that they could infiltrate, or what we call sellout tribes, and try to use them to invade or to own more of the lands. And they did this by something called baptismal paper. A lot of you on the panel, with probably the exception of Aaron and David, and I didn't see them well, but probably above a certain age would not know about what a baptismal paper is, or if you're into research, you probably may know, but it's what we call in today a birth paper, right? Your birth paper is what makes you a slave, and I will tell you how. Your birth paper was issued by the Moriscos and the Conversos. They came here to convert the indigenous people to Christianity and Islam. When they finally got a little small plot in what we call in Port of Spain today, and they got the infiltration of the tribes, they did the baptism. They conquered the indigenous people lands by church and state. And so with the baptism, they were given papers, right? Some of these indigenous people started mixing the bloodlines with the invaders. And so that's how they end up getting claims to the land. Fast forward a little bit, after the Battle of 1795 to 1797, Britain came into the game and Spain couldn't hold up the battle against the indigenous no more, so they ceded here to Britain, right? The British fought the wars with the Spanish against the indigenous from 1795 to 1797, and they depleted their force for their naval forces for 23 years after that, right? 20 something years later, they came in 1845, and that was the first sailing they did after that war. And they brought in the Hindu people from Hindustan, right? So between 1498 and 1845, there have been no uncovering, absolutely none whatsoever, any record of them bringing any African slave to this land here called Kariri by our ancestors. The misnomer is Trinidad. Alubera is what they call him by its misnomer now, Tobago. There is no record of them bringing any Africans here. What we have record of is them coming and meeting people who they call in Africans here and fighting wars against them to the point where they had to change their style of conquest, right? So be that as it may, fast forward, everybody carrying a birth paper now belongs to that conquest, right? They belong to the British Empire. They belong to something called the Commonwealth. You are what they call chattel property, right? You have absolutely no rights. That's why Stuart Young could have come about a month ago or 3 months ago and read a paper with a red seal on it, and all citizens had no more rights after that. All the indigenous people still had their rights, right? They couldn't come in where we are. They can't stop us from what we're doing. We exempted from all that nonsense because we outside of the corporate jurisdiction, right? That's your first point of freedom before you could even reach anything spiritual, right? That's your first point of awareness. Awareness that your status right now is that you are a slave. Somebody could make up a disease and jump out and say that you had to stay inside for so much and so much of time and you have to comply. Meanwhile, the indigenous people walking around without masks, stand up next to the police station smoking weed, and we still here.
Right.
Right? So all of that happening, and none of you don't know about that. You don't have to know about it, but this is the type of things that are happening on the land, and people think that everything is a normal thing. Right? Let me just point something out to you all. There is something that happens if a man who's a citizen goes with a girl below the age of 16,
Excuse me.
right? Sexually.
Excuse Chief.
Yeah.
You mind if we take a couple questions and then you could continue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess it might be too much, but let me just draw this point so that I'll get people's mind a little bit into it. It's just a quick point,
All right, quick.
right? Well, all right, since you're talking, what they call what's the kind of rape they call when they go with an underage girl?
Somebody could answer that.
A S word.
That nice statutory, something like that.
Statutory,
Right, beautiful,
statutory.
beautiful. Meanwhile, he sleep with what they was calling earlier on a human being, right? Just not to confuse people, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Why are they charging him for raping the state when he slept with a human being?
That's interesting.
Because she belonged to the state.
Beautiful. I'll take questions now.
Lem, go through.
Nah, not I go through. We'll continue. I'm a bit occupied. I'm listening to all that's being said. I will say my piece when everyone is when we get a little further. You go through.
All right. Justin, go through.
All right. So, Chief, I agree with a lot of what you have said too, in terms of a lot of y'all don't even know me. In terms of my living arrangements, the way I live, I don't live for the system. Every day, I take time to spend just with me, just being in nature. I'm not subjected by any work. I don't even have an ID card. I have the system boot paper and stuff like this because, yet again, it is what we use in the system. So I do have certain systematic things. And I also agree in terms of with what he said, where he basically, the boot paper is like a contract that states that they own you basically. So you need to abide by their rules and their laws and their regulations. But my personal opinion is there. The system is there. I do not agree with anything that the system is doing right now currently. Because one of the key things that I like that you say too is the worship of always, looking for that on the outside in terms of we go to the system for everything. And this is what I believe that is one of the main issues also with humanity, whereas we keep giving away our power and externalizing our power. So my teachings, I don't believe in externalizing your power in any form or fashion. But with that being said, we here, a lot of us here right now, are ahead of our time. And I love the fact that you also brought up the COVID. COVID was an illusion within itself, but I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But my question for you, though, Chief, I agree with as I am agreeing with a lot of what it is that you have said. I have a minor disagreement in terms of pertaining to do with ancestors and fighting and wars and stuff like that. I would like to get your take on in terms of moving forward. Do you think that it is a good idea to fight fire with fire, or do you think that it is better for us to basically do what it is that we can do within the means of what we can know and build, as you have already facilitated, have a community going and building and working towards? If someone in the system or whatever it is now chooses to infringe on that because they have done that before, that's how they colonized us in the first place. What is your take on it? Do you say fight fire with fire? Or how would you even go about dealing with a situation like that? That's my question.
Beautiful question. We all familiar with the term "the pen is mightier than the sword," correct?
Yeah.
Right. No more are we in the times where outright genocidal invasions are taking place, right? They are more, for lack of a better term, they are more civilized approaches to conquering people's lands and that type of things that they engaging in right now. So if we are met with immediate violence, right? Self-preservation is the highest preservation on this vibrational, on this plane that we're on here now, right? So if you get a surprise attack, self-preservation is your first instinct and first response, right? But that is not actually happening right now. So we would not respond because basically we coming from a place of violence, right? Your parents were tricked into selling you to a corporation and making you a slave. That is something violent, right? Someone stole your identity and operating with your basic birthright, right? So these things are violent. They are considered genocide in the International Criminal Court, right? So we are already coming from a position of violence. But what we have already done, going on 8 years now, a matter of fact, 8 years now, we have already responded with the pen. And since we have responded with the pen, we have had basically favorable outcomes for the last 8 years, and it has only begun to advance into what it's supposed to be. So for instance, I heard you say just now that you kind of operate like a kind of off-grid person, for lack of a better word, but not in your words, but you operate like you're outside of the system, but you still make mention that you carry a birth paper, right? What we do is we sever all those connections. So for instance, when you operate in an automobile and you had to go roll around with probably a driver's permit, or I don't know how he's roll, if you ride dirty and you roll without permits or that type of stuff, but just assuming that you roll with probably a driver's permit or license, we do carry such permissions because we need none. We have our own identification, we produce our own travel card, and we have a right to travel freely. We have a right to do a lot of things that they are now catching up to and now declaring. So the style from when we were being conquered in ancient times to now, it has changed a lot. It has changed a lot. So our response is pen and paper to any violence that was from before. And as I say now, is a different style of violence, but we still respond with pen and paper. As a matter of fact, we have the right to bear arms, and well, only our security carry arms. So it's not something that we just allow tribe members to flex around willy-nilly with arms and that type of thing, because we are aware of what it could invoke, even though its intentions might be good. So the old people always say, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. You know what I mean? So this is what we tend to do in our approach in terms of these type of things. And so far we have had favorable outcomes. So we continue on the pen is mightier than the sword part. If that answers the question.
One more thing.
Justin.
Yes, you answered a lot of my questions, and I have a lot of clarity also. So I know other people want a question too, but I just want to ask this too. So in terms of, you said also 8 years that you'll have this, basically community going and building, developing, etc., right? And you also said something in terms of driver's license and stuff like this. I personally don't even drive and stuff like that, just to add that. But I want to ask a question here in terms of being out of the system in that way, right? Because I've tried to come out of the system in that way numerous occasions, and still the system, like when I told them I'm a sovereign being, that is what I am. I also explained to them the terminology of what sovereign is. And I was still basically attacked in a way that basically the police had more say than me. And the thing with that
I'll tell you why when you
I did not have any ID card on me. I didn't have any of those types of stuff on me. And I was also sharing that with them. How does your community go about in terms of dealing with interactions like that? Like, how do you all get out of these things?
Beautiful question, and I want you to hear me real properly. We don't use words like sovereign. Sovereign is now a flag word under the United States Department of Defense. From the time you say that word, it means that you are a terrorist. The word sovereign came into existence with those invaders, and it has to do with the crown. Only the crown could be sovereign, and since you are a citizen and claiming to be a sovereign, it means that you are a terrorist. So they had the right to shoot you right on the spot. It's not funny because a lot of people hearing things being used and they attempting to use it without the proper procedure, and you could get yourself in serious trouble, even lose your life, right? So we get away from that by not using words like that. There's a process for how we do our stuff. We have classes. I've currently finishing a second class but there is a way we operate, and that's why I have to come through classes to learn what we do before we could even take reverse your birth paper, which is a receipt, before we could even reverse your birth paper and take you out of the corporation, right? So all that has to be learned before anyone could even attempt to operate in the true and proper status, because the amount of shackles they put on you, and then when people started to respond, what they changed and upgraded is something that you actually have to learn now in terms of operating from a indigenous perspective. There are two perspectives people operate from. Those who not indigenous, those who do carry the genetics of the Kapoto woolly-head people, they carry something called the free man on the land status, where they could be operating outside of the corporation, right? And then there's the only other status other than that, which is the highest status on the planet, is indigenous. Anything other than that is invaders, which is monarch and sovereign.
All right, Aaron.
Right. So that answer your question, Aaron. Justin.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
before we go
correct.
to
I understand exactly what it is saying. And in terms of with it being now, government also think that they own the whole land. How is it that y'all are able to develop a community when they think they own all the land?
Give him some love, man. Give somebody an exercise.
all right. I will answer a question quick, but we'll give Aaron a little try, a little come in, right? But get this. We didn't just up one day and do what we're doing. There is a process to where I did what I did to reach where we at right now. And I just say the long short is in 2018 I became the first indigenous being or indigenous chief to bring case against the crown that stands unrebutted to date. Right? So that is why I am able to do what I'm doing, and that is why the government can't do anything about that, because again, I became our tribe have a lot of historical things with it, and so we carry the record for the first tribe to void a corporation on paper on the planet, right? Because they conquer lands with paper, so we void them back with paper, right? And well, I'm talking to you here now, so see?
Love it.
right, Aaron.
Right.
Go ahead, Ira.
Yeah. Thanks for the information. Right. So what you have been speaking about, I'm very much intrigued, because I've been up since COVID. I've been really looking and seeking information and so forth. So I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware of the corporation. I'm fully aware of the birth paper and the name and the birth paper, and the one in caps and one in lowercase. I'm fully aware of the terminology of reversing your birth certification and giving up that status in the corporation. But I have also been looking at ways that I know there's some I know there's lawful and legal, and then they use that's why there's something called Black's Law Dictionary or something like that.
Beautiful.
And they use particular, so lawyers they work for the state. They don't defend you. They work for the state, and they will have particular terminology. That's why they'll tell you get a lawyer. But long as you know what to do and you know how to speak and you know the correct terminology, and you know the correct words to use. So, for example, instead of saying you're driving, you're traveling, you're a traveler. There's a whole different thing. There's a whole different scenario, right? So, with reference to driving, you don't need to be as a indigenous person. You will not need a birth certificate. Sorry, a driver's permit to travel, and you do not need you will need to get your car insurance to travel and so forth, right? And if you're traveling from country to country, you do need a passport. So I've been looking into those things, and I'm very much interested in finding out more about your particular group, because I know there's something called the common law court or something. The common law court, I've been looking at them as well. And the next thing is to answer my brother's question, probably to just add, I don't know if I might be able to answer it, but to add, you alone or one man alone, you can't do nothing. But you see, as a community, when you have numbers and the pen, as the chief said, in this day and age, there's no pen, paper, right, black and white. And the pen, and when you have a backing and everybody can sign and see and support it, that is where it is your power, right? So that's where we to take back your right. And you alone by yourself, police, you can't do nothing. But when you have a community and a back, and you, even if they take you, Even if they hold you, you have a community to come and to back you. And then if you have to go to court and them kind of thing, you know what kind of you have a community to back you, and so you don't need a lawyer and them kind of thing. Because of course they would use particular terms or words to when I know this man, right? Anyway, yeah, they use particular words to confuse you. You understand? Listen, the mashup, especially with the terminologies in the court system, right? So, my question to you, Chief, is the process. Well, of course, I think you guys have a particular group. How do you get access to or find out about your group and along that aspect of reversing that cooperation? Like we know about the cooperation, it represents a straw man. So your name, Aaron, whatever your name is, on that birth certificate represents a straw man and not a living man or woman, a living man or woman. So
Beautiful question.
yeah.
Beautiful question.
How do you get that? Because you can't do it by yourself. Of course, there's a community and there's a way that's done. And I've been looking at other avenues, for example, like the common law court and these different stuff. So yeah.
All right, beautiful question. So while I was speaking just now, I said I became the first person in 2018 to bring a case against the Crown that stands to date unrebutted. What we have is we produce something called a statutory declaration, right? Now, this is stuff that we teach in our class, so I wouldn't get into the depths here, right? But basically, the statutory declaration is what reverses your birth paper. It has a grandmother to that document that was done by one of our chiefs. Then we had about 5 other brothers up in the north, both US and Canada, working on it. And then in 2017, I met one of them and we had to work on the one for down here. So I worked on that directly. And in 2018, I became the first person to bring a statutory declaration forward, right? So that's the document that we use to reverse a birth paper. It is worded very skillfully. And to just clarify some of the things you're saying just now, the language that the court uses is called legalese. That is different to what we speak in here. And that's why when he said just now human, I didn't acquiesce to it because, again, we don't own these platforms. And so I, in my status, wouldn't be able to acquiesce to certain things that you would say commonly, right? Because I'm not a citizen or a corporate entity belonging to nothing. So I always have to protect my status, right? So legalese is what they use against you in court. When you think you speak in English in court, they speak in legalese. They work in that on you, right? And Aaron, knowing all these things and saying that you're traveling and is a citizen of a corporation, you will only get yourself in trouble. All these things are meant for after you void your birth paper from the beginning, or what they say in legal terminology, ab initio. So you void it from the beginning, and then you could use these terminologies. It makes no sense using these terminologies and you have an active birth paper. You will only get yourself locked up. So it's just a warning. I'm not saying that you're doing it.
Just for clarification, I know there's a difference with what I know. I've been researching, so I know particular things. So again, what I was looking for is the process to get that first part done. After that, then you can't touch me. But yeah, I understand. Yeah, I'm not gonna use it. I understand certain things. I'm not gonna use it, and I'll get myself caught up because already. I still under the system. I still under the corporation. Once I get through that process of declaring my reversing that birth certificate and reclaiming my rights as a man, living man on the planet, on the earth. Yeah. You're muted.
Yeah, you mean
Hi, good night, guys. I do apologize for
The
the
chief was
beginning
talking
where
with, sorry, brother. The chief wasn't here and you were saying something with the name.
Chief, you're mute.
Sorry, brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. What was the last thing you say? It kind of slipped me when the brother came in. Oh, the living man stuff he was talking about. the living man concept would be for anybody outside of the genetic group of the copper tone woolly head people. Once you're like me and you're doing a statutory declaration, your status would be indigenous, right? So there's
Oh,
something for everybody, but your status wouldn't be living man. You would be indigenous, right? All up to the Hindu man could claim living man and free man on the land, right?
Understand?
Right.
Because of where they were initially situated.
No.
Explain.
It's because of their chronological timeline, because of their time in on the planet, right? So it's based on chronology. Who here the longest have the most claim, basically, right?
So
So since the original people start off with the copper tone woolly head people, them is the owners of the planet. Everybody else operating and existing by way of them. Even the genetics come from us. That's why we do promote
indigenous
racial hate and racial
indigenous is before the living man then.
Of course,
Right.
indigenous is not considered man. We considered beings,
Yeah.
right? It's a whole concept with our existence that because we lack our knowledge, we started to die, but we never used to. But that story is for other days.
Yeah. Let this guy go ahead. I want to.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Lem.
Hi, good night. So I would start again. Good night, everyone. I do apologize for coming on late. I really wanted to be here a little bit earlier. I had a couple of meetings and whatnot. I've been listening so far, and first thing I would say, I'm pleased at where the conversation is, and to be privy to persons, one, being confident enough to express themselves and be vulnerable enough to ask questions even when they don't know. Chief, I thank you for the insight on what you would have shared based on your understanding and your perspectives, your experience thus far. That is very much appreciated. For a while, Shane has wanted us to have interactions, and I understand why. Um, I'm not going to go into much right now, and I'm doing that so more on the assurance that this group and possibly more persons would recycle and come here again for another discussion where we can have this on a continuous basis. Two key phrases, I guess you could say. Firstly, when it comes to understanding life, oneself, having I guess, a sense of belonging or achieved experience in this plane, I would say one of the first things, and I recommend this to everyone, is do the study of etymology. Etymology, for those who may not know, is basically the understanding of words, phrases, sentences, how, yeah, correct, exactly, Chief. How it was
Not
created, and it's that. And
correct.
you know where I'm going
The
from here?
origin, not the
Because
understanding.
that,
Beautiful.
yes,
Beautiful.
exactly.
Go.
And that ties right back in to the very structure that has been placed for eons before that we are following now. Because we go with the understanding of, hey, because we're living in this current era, that we are more modern than some of the past eras, not understanding that we are still following under the blueprint of the past eras that we look at as primitive. So I hope persons understand that. The second thing I would say, and coming out of understanding etymology, is the Shane and David will probably hear me say this a lot.
Yeah.
The word tact. If persons could apply the word tact like a mantra, TACT, and the origins of tact again, leading back to etymology, what is the definition of tact? Is basically in layman's terms, knowing how to operate and when to operate, using what is now a superpower, common sense, and applying it with daily activities. Because the me to Shane may not be the me to the chief, and the me to the chief may not be the me to David. But that doesn't mean I'm a completely different entity or a fake or whatnot. I am the interactions and the personal relationship by which I would have with any one individual would never be the same with the other. Even if it may be mirroring close, it would never be the same because one entity relating to the other, the connections, the frequency, the relationship in general is like a ripple. Yeah, exactly. It's like a ripple effect that has a part to play because I talking about how I wanted to. I am of the persuasion where I view the entity of the human being with all the magnificence based on what the Most High has created us with. I view us as the only being other than the Most High with the ability to create chaos and order. We are the only other entity that has that ability. That means tying back to, so I was listening, this is where I prove I was listening. That ties back to when you mentioned gods, and if I'm a god or a demigod, that ties very back into it, because the only other entity with the qualifications to house the ability similar to the Most High is what they've narrowed down and they're diluted to now calling the phrase human beings. So I'm not going to go in a little bit more because I want to hear what you guys. I turn my mic off, and again thank everyone for being. Shane and David know I could go when I want to, but
I want
I'm
David
very
share
much.
something. I want David share something.
I'm anxious to speak. So guys, thank you. If even not some of it, I agree with what I'm hearing. I'm still opening up and being permeable enough that I can filter out and somewhere find an access point where I could relate and understand. Because I look to collect experience points for this level of the process. So thanks again, guys, and continue.
I could just say the person that just speak, I just want to tell you thank you, because actually the word etymology, first time I actually paying attention to it, and I now started doing, as you speak, I now started doing some research on it. So thanks.
All praise to the both sides.
That's what it is about. That's what it is about. The awareness. We're raising our awareness tonight of it. You know? So Chief, share a little more insights on the history, and we can continue. So while I see Justin, he have his hand up. So you wanna continue? All right, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, let me take Justin now. Let me take some more questions before we forward now.
So, Chief, in terms of someone joining your basically community that you have developed, that you are developing, my question is that I've been wanting to ask is, what are the rules, or what are the laws that govern a society that is basically outside of the system, and what makes it different in terms of what are the limitations, what are the do's and don'ts in that community?
We have any moderators in the panel, on the panel?
What do you mean by moderators in terms of?
Because I'm gonna answer his question with evidence one time.
Oh, okay.
Type in on Google Constitution of Kariri and Alubera indigenous people.
Hold on,
So you see where I'm going, right, Justin?
Yeah, that's why I'll listen.
Right. Tell me.
Right, so we operate.
I should
What are
also
looking
record,
for?
and I will also watch over this podcast also to get more clarity.
What to type
Right.
in, Chief? Chief, what to type in?
Constitution of Kariri, Kairi.
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 Right. Kairi. Right. Constitution.
And
No, Kariri.
Right, Constitution of Kariri and Alubera indigenous people. It's supposed to get, when you type, you're supposed to finish the prompt.
Right. Aloe. How you spell the aloe vera?
ALU.
ALU.
BERA.
BERA.
And indigenous people, and just hit go. When it come up, you could just share the link in the chat so people could go through it and that type of thing. But normally, all this is things that we teach in our classes. So breaking it down and going into it, we do more that in our classes and that type of stuff, right?
Right. I am seeing,
that will give rise to a lot more questions.
I see in
you could share it on the screen that point up on the big screen that I want here now.
Yeah, I see in
so I could just point out which one.
Okay, hold on, huh?
Me find it and looking at it like a thing.
Right. You see on the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, click on it.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, click on Calameo, yeah. Right. That is what we live by. You can click on it and go through the publication, but as I say, this is what we teach on in our class. It has been done some years ago, and the constitution is written and also oral. So whatever changes we have to do, it would be done. But as it stands, it's very suffice for how we operate, and this is what we govern and live by. We have a motto for the indigenous people. It's called for, of, and by each other. Right, so that is kind of basically our concept, and well, we have our principles and things laid out in this constitution here, and this is what we live by. All right, somebody asked, who was that who asked the question? Justin, right?
Yeah, man. Now, the reason why I asked
Right,
this question was because of, in terms of joining. Now, I have no issues in terms of joining your community. This is why I also ask the questions. And the reason that I would ask this question also is in terms of, let's say you need to fly out and go to another country and stuff like that. You're not
right.
using the system, you're out of the system in that way. How are you going to go to another country and stuff like that? Is it just travel by boat? Are you still using the planes or whatever it is that they have? Like, these are something. This is why I asked that question.
All right, beautiful question. Now, travel under well, the questions going into my teaching class, but we're entertaining because Shane is my boy still, you know what I mean? But
We gain a free
for
course. Thank
travel,
you very much, sir.
yeah, for
I'm
travel.
sorry to say, but I am a deep diver, so I ask deep questions.
So and we obliged to answer. So that's why you're getting through. Right. So, but for travel, we have the same travel card that we have. One second. Right. I'm gonna just toggle the screen here. I don't hold it. Oh, okay. Right. This QR code here. All right, you can scan it right off this screen here. It will lead you to the document that void the corporation, right? So basically now we have the right under the treaty agent, GHENT, the treaty agent, to travel anywhere as you so please, right? We in the process now, because it's kind of expensive, we're in the process of creating our travel book, right? But we have made minor flights with these from here to Alubera, right? We haven't gone outside that zone as yet because we want to do things as I was stating to you before. It's not way doing it, it's how we're doing it. So we want to have it as on a certain professional level. So when we come out with it, it's like a different level of operating. And the next thing is most of the tribe not interested in flying and going anywhere, because basically we're still in the what we will call the baby stages, and we have a lot of infrastructural work and a lot of foundation work going on at the moment. So most of the tribe members involved in that, and so we're not really interested in flying and things. So that's why we're not focusing so much on developing the passport book yet, because it's costing a serious piece of change, right? So, but that is on stream already. We already had this design, everything already done, but this is how we travel. In the meantime, from here to Alubera, you're using this. And well, for other things, whoever else,
Alubera?
let's see. Alubera, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're now coming, but it's Tobago, is what they call it.
Okay.
Tobago. Tobago is the
Okay.
misnomer, right? Just like how
Just,
Trinidad
ignorance.
is the misnomer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no ignorance.
Could you repeat what Trinidad is?
Kariri.
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 Yeah, the roll of the
Okay.
tongue is a genetic thing, but yeah. Right? But yeah, Kariri and Alubera, that is the name of these islands. Right? It have a lot of mystic here. It has a lot of what people will call spirituality, what the indigenous people call divinity, right? This was a island that was the focal point. It was like Mecca. It still is the Mecca. We just, not we, but most of the tribe, our tribe brothers and sisters, lost the link that they had before. But here, all from the south used to come up to worship, and those from the north used to come down to worship. And I wouldn't go into depths with that because, again, that is tribal privilege knowledge on certain things, right? Just think City of El Dorado and all these type of things, right? There's none of it, right? But yeah, so that's how we travel, Justin. For now, this is what we're using. We're not going no big set of distance, but we have things in place for big distances. We had one sister who, this is something that you have to be able to follow instructions, right? So she was about to fly to Canada, and she has this and her document that they could have stamped back then because she needed to go in urgently. And she bought her ticket in her corporate name, but came with indigenous documents. And the Canadian version of the TSA just told her, well, ma'am, you bought the ticket in the wrong name. All you had to do was buy it in the indigenous name on the ID, and we'd allow you on. And she's so disturbed how she missed the opportunity to create history and whatnot, and simply by not following instructions. We told her that's what she's supposed to do. She didn't need the TSA person to tell her that. But we could have had that under our belt, but we do promote lies and things, so we didn't do anything outside of aloe vera. So that's the furthest we go with flying. But for now, things are in place for that. If you come and you had the money to print them out, well, all right, come in the tribe, man, we for that.
So as I stand right now, I'm kind of blown away by a lot of the things that you're saying. Like I am kind of blown away that the mere fact that it's already, to that extent. So in other words, also, it is a building process. Like you can't we can't expect things to happen today for tomorrow, as you said. It still requires money. But which also brings me to this next question: what is money? Because money within itself is something that was created to
Well,
yet
let me
again
back up what
control
you're
us.
saying. Because eventually we're not going to be using the plastic money or what was correctly called fiat currency. We wouldn't be using that no more. And that is why paying attention to international events is an important thing, because what Trump is doing is it is inadvertently, he's not our friend, but is inadvertently benefiting the indigenous people, right? So pay attention to these things. We have remedies for all them things coming forward. We're doing it just like how we used to do it before, right? Go and type in GUANIN. And on this island, the indigenous people is the only people who create the art of binding copper and gold into the wickedest perfection, 99.9% perfection, abounding the two elements. We that skillful. And not because we ain't doing it means we can't do it. It's has some called DNA memory, right? Once you put yourself in your proper status,
Which I'm
and it's
aware of.
operate. All right. So you could literally call up that old skill from down your bloodline or up your bloodline, however you want to look at it, and manifest it right here, you know what I mean? So a lot of things that people think is a problem ain't really no problem, you know what I mean? It's just a matter take yourself out of the corporate mindset, which is the dependency syndrome, and it's how easy it is to live free and independent away from someone governing your life, let alone pedophiles, blood drinkers, and all this type of thing. Yeah?
Respect, Chief. Respect.
Yeah, man.
I see Lem had his hand up by Lem, sorry, your hand hurting by now, eh?
That's okay. I listen. I like Justin's enthusiasm. Is a lot I want to say, but like you said, time and whatnot. Firstly, again, I'll just be referencing things because persons on the chat, I would have said with them also. Shane and David, I would say Trinidad is a prototype, meaning there are a lot of things where history is concerned that ties back to this beautiful twin island. If you go through and some of it it's so important, yet it's just brushed past. Um, if you're into the streets and whatnot, a lot of the old heads who used to run a lot of the, the white and whatnot, they will let you know that crack cocaine was invented in Trinidad and Tobago. And that song, and okay, cool, whatever. But if you understand, one of the most famous presidents in the world, Ronald Reagan, waged a war against crack cocaine. The television is two stories with it. One that it was invented down here, and the other where the inventor, he was down here and he had interactions with engineers, and but of course, is more self-taught than what he was accustomed to.
Stole the
And
idea.
yeah, I trying to say it in a diplomatic way. Oh gosh, Lord, and
Say the
I'm trying.
wrong man.
I want. You see, I want everybody to have their own conclusion. I agree with you completely, but I say it in a diplomatic way. So at no point they could ever say, "Hey, I nudge you towards the side." You use your wisdom and you bring that connection with the Most High and get a reason for yourself. But thanks, thanks, Chief. So, quote unquote, the inventor of the television. What is the television? One of the most programmable devices in recorded history.
This is a
Email gate.
television program right here, by the way.
Email gate.
I think I know where you're going with this, but I go listen.
Or you understand what email gate was? Right, the current president that we're now talking about. Or you understand that he was being impeached for a fully run simulation to email gate. Email gate is where they basically used the email address and the IP address and the social profile that most individuals that have a working smartphone or working smart device to send programmable messages, suggestions, and implants for voter padding and for mental programming where products, services, and government issues are concerned. That is quote unquote, you're programming people to think and act the way you want that is beneficial for corporate. Emailgate was first done here, exposed here. Now, those are just three random coincidences. Think on the world level how that has impacted, and that come from right here. I could veer off a little bit. Michael Jackson, one, if not so many, the greatest, who just happened to be a part of his downfall. I could have been a doctor. Cuba have some better doctors than me, so to say. Now, again, these things sound significant, but look at the, the importance and the rippling effect from those three minor things. That's why I say I believe Trinidad and Tobago is a type of prototype.
All right. I 100% like what you're saying because it will give rise to this. Now, in 1639, Alubera became the first free Swati nation on the planet, right? It was the first free nation where the invaders had developed. Now, the invaders was not white people. I said that before. The reason the planet in the state it is in right now, again, is not white people, right? Some of the greatest COINTELPRO agents operate from here. Stokely Carmichael was responsible for undermining people like Martin Luther King and men like Malcolm X, right? So this island has a long history of invaders interwoven into the system. Now, within our research, we come across the last names of these crypto Muslims and crypto Jews who, when they came from out of the Spanish Inquisition, came across here and they had to change their names in order for nobody to track them and know who they are. So they came over and they changed the names, and some of them adopt some of our names and things. But basically, Alubera being the first free Swati nation mean that the first set of organized crime by the invaders on the planet happened in Alubera. Alubera have the bloodline of the Baltic Duchy of Courland. What they have, quote unquote, for those of you into research and things, they call them the black nobility, right? It's not something good, right? These people who look like us, who are not us, right? They are custom. They will run out to Africa first, or what they now call in Africa, and then they end up in Europe, right? You could follow their trace by finding the Etruscan Moors, the Etruscan, Etruscan Moors. They used to eat babies, drink the blood, and all them type of thing. Them is the same crypto Muslim and the same crypto Jews who set up the first free Swati nation in Alubera. And from there, they launched the heart, or we're calling the secret societies in the West, right? So it's back into what Lemuel is saying, that the amount of agents and things operating out of this land as a prototype and what they want to achieve on a larger scale, they run the prototype here, is nothing short of the truth. Is nothing far from the truth. It's absolutely on target, right? Because this is what they do. They undermine societies, change the narratives, steal identities, and then repost the stories, their version, their style. And they have everybody operating under uh, a false identity, basically, so they could govern the planet how they wanted. Right now, present day, as we sit down here talking, they're living in Switzerland. Anybody could tell me when last Switzerland had a war?
Switzerland at war right now?
You know, that's my dream place to
No,
move.
When was the
Was
last
it have
time?
no
when
war?
last they had a war?
I don't
It's the
know.
most
No, I
peaceful
don't know.
place.
To know,
I don't know.
you want
I
to know
don't know.
why?
Well, they are also annexed us one. They, us,
They
Japan, and
are
Cuba.
they are the same ones who were setting up in Alubera. They are 6 families who are responsible for all the wealth on the planet.
Mhm.
Bill Gates' money is not Bill Gates' money. The Krong wealth is not the Krong wealth. All of them working for 6 Swati woolly head families living in Davos, Switzerland. They're responsible for every single drop of evil on the planet. Them responsible for it. Funny, eh? Plenty people thought it was white people. White people is a genetic, quote unquote, white people. White people is not even the terminology for them. The modest terminology for them is carbon recessive, right? Carbon recessive people was a genetic experiment from a time before that resulted in this carbon degeneration that we're seeing here, right? They only around 6,000 years now, and they on their way out. By 2040, between 2040 and 2060, there will be no more carbon degenerate people or carbon recessive people on the planet. Nowhere. Right? It's a virus. The only time a mutation is good is in X-Men. I'm speaking from with 16 years of medical knowledge as a paramedic before I was doing all of this. So, right, any mutation that happens medically is considered bad. I never, in all my years operating, never saw a good mutation. Right? So, carbon recessiveness is a genetic mutation, and that is why the sperm count is down by 96%. They basically fading out of existence, and that is why the movies coming now with them showing mixed couple more than ever now, because for them to make it through this cycle called the sun cycle, they have to join the genetics, and your job is to not allow them.
Yeah, Justin.
It might sound harsh, but the reason why we have all the problems on the planet is because we allow certain beings to toy with our genetics. And these same results of these genetic manipulations is why we have some serious problems on the planet right now. Done by the same people who live in Davos, Switzerland, that if you go in 10 kilometers of the settings, they shoot you within that range. Dead on spot.
Wow. Now, I know Justin, you raise your hand, but I did see Lashonda raise her hand and then it dropped. So I would like to take Lashonda, and then you will go to Justin, and then Len.
I was just gonna ask a question, and he answered the question before I asked it. So I real good over here. I just
Serious?
at this point in time. I just listening because I was gonna go into the whole mountain of the caucuses and all them kind of thing, and then he just answer all the questions, so I ain't bothered.
Hey, Justin, all yours.
Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to ask was about, I would suspect that you all have basically your own food source. So in terms of how and what it is that you produce also, or are you all mass producing anything in terms of right now to sustain the community?
All right. You're asking good questions there, but just for kick's sake, I hope he is no agent, right? But
Well,
basically,
agent in terms of, no, I just go down a movie like that because I also use my imagination. I'm new. I live in the matrix.
but in this case, being an agent is not a good thing. And just I like how you use the matrix reference because everybody with a bird paper, they connected to the agents and them, and so now the agents could fade into anybody with a bird paper. What we doing is what Morpheus did with the machine and unplug Neo from the pod. That is where your statutory declaration is. That is the robot that unplugging you. That is the statutory declaration. So by our standards, you are agent, but just for kick's sake, you know what I mean? Right?
No, but really and truly, I want to basically get rid of any connections to the system because I share a little bit about me here too. I've been basically back and forth, like in terms of was in the process of trying to get back ID cards and stuff like that to do certain things because right now I'm kind of stuck in that space where it's like how I'm functioning without the system. You know, so that's why I said a lot of the things that you're sharing with me kind of blew my mind to the point where I thinking that this is the only option, and then basically it kind of the divine now just showing me another option too that is already at a certain level. So that's why I also asked the question of how to go about it and also what were the limitations. So you know, after the next question will be how to join.
I have a question.
Well,
Well,
got you.
let me just. We good there, right? But no, wait, I had to answer your question. We are mass producing, and let me just give you a little insight. We into something called self-sustainability, right? And one of the things we have handed down from our ancestors is a real gift. When last you see real yellow corn?
A while. A
while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to show you a corn.
I don't think I ever seen real yellow corn.
I'm going to show you a corn that has its genetics carrying back about 200 years old. Right? Now, when I show you that, well, I'm not going and when I show these people this video, well, I'm not going and tell them, or they could ask me to get some because well, they wouldn't get it. Right? Anybody ever see a corn this color?
No.
That corn looking red and yellow.
Beautiful.
Long time there used to be somewhere you would get. Sorry, Chief. Long time I remember you would get some with like little spots on them, like little red, little whatnot, but it wouldn't be that full in terms of so potent. That is really cool.
So that's why I mislead you. We do have the original yellow one, but this one, both of them carrying over 200 years from the ancestors. This red corn this is why you never see it, because they never used to sell it commercially. This was used to make flour. And that's why we used to live all 200-300 years and all them type of thing. Right? Because we never used to eat no commercial nonsense. So we now going into mass production with things like these. And you would not be able to get a seed, but you might be able to enjoy a flour product from it. Right? So this is the type of things we we engaging in. And so yes, we mass producing with our own food. We have different sites around the island where we now starting up to set our things up. We into animal livestock rearing and all that type of thing. All things good. Yeah. So yeah, just to answer your question.
All
I've
right.
Right?
only seen that
Satisfied?
corn. I've only seen that corn once in my life, and that was above my door when I was a child. That's it.
All right, wait.
That
Hold
red
on.
corn.
Let me make a guess. You living in the south?
No,
You're from there?
no. My
All right.
family, yes.
All right. So
My
where you
family,
from
yes.
right now?
Where I am right now, or where I'm from?
Where you from?
I'm from Belmont, Bantaria,
Okay.
Mova.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Belmont, all them tongue people and them came from either islands or they came in from off the interior this island. So yes, see that
Yes, and
roots in south.
I'm mixed with Grenada. Come from Grenada side. We come from further, of course, and also from the same country here, but deep in the bush.
Beautiful.
Oh, call it deep
And
in the
let me tell you
bush.
something. All these islands had their connections and bloodlines wove into here. At one point
Yes.
in time, according to the anthropologist Dr. Nicole Gonzalez, she numbered up to 4,000 different tribes coming through here and or stationed here at one point in time. Right? So all up Grenada, everybody, all from all over is the whole Americas is with family. And basically, they used to come here. What we finding out, there's fresh research now. What we finding out, what was attracting them here was basically the bloodlines, right? So do think of here slight, do think of your position on the planet here slight. We tout here is probably the most important place on the planet, right? Because some of the most important battles were fought here. Some of the most significant battles were fought here. And we had a lot to play with. We had a large part to play with the modern operational things because of what we did historically. And some people are familiar with Haiti war and that type of thing, and they like to rate Haiti war as if it was one of the most iconic wars fought in the Caribbean. But I will have you know that the Battle of 1699 is single-handedly the most important war in the whole Americas. And the war that Haiti fought after that was because they were connected to here, and it was a simultaneous uprising. The art of war was our style, right? And to date, it still can't beat we because as evidence sitting right here now. We've been the paper war. So that's how I became a chief. From war times, they had before war times, the chief and them used to come down by succession, bloodline. So it used to be the great mother that they call in the matriarch now. It never was a single sex-run society. It was always the great mother was on top, right? And the chief was alongside her, right? The societies was matriarchal, right? We could get into all of that, but basically that was done so it would keep the balance on the land. The planet is basically female, so the feminine energies run the planet, is the most dominant on the planet. So therefore, the rules type system that we had was female in structure or feminine in structure, right? So, what was saying? That's not miss. All right. So basically, because of that now, when they came here and invaded here, they sought to destroy that. And so wars disrupted our process, our hereditary process where we hand down succession from the bloodlines from one hierarchy to the next, the upcoming hierarchy, right? And so what usually put the tribes back together is when a war chief wins a war, right? So the wars fought was 1699, then 1795 to 1797, and then they changed the style of the war when they realized they couldn't beat us. They turned it to paper because they knew we couldn't speak their language, right? Then it took us all that time, and then come 1962 with the Constitution, the Federation Constitution, and then 1976 with the Republican Constitution for here. And it took us 60 years, no, 58 years. Yeah, that would take us 2018 would be 58 years. Because we marched for the 60th year. And we was, yeah?
Would
Somebody
you
do the maths to me. So it would take us to 59 years we take to figure it out. And so we won the paperwork, and that's how I came the chief now. 327 years later this year.
I have a couple of questions.
Right. So 60 years. Yeah, it's 60
hold
years.
on? Let Lem go through.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, so I was talking, yeah.
Lem, you there?
Nah, he was going. I had a
Dance.
question, but he started to go down that line, and then I think kind of diverted. So if he continues, I'd see where it would go. I don't want to interrupt the flow he was going with now.
Okay, but I think Iran, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was trying to take notes because usually when the question comes to me, I need to ask it one time. So I have to take some notes. Well, I see you mentioned the corn first. I think I've seen it before, but it brought me to thinking, okay, that is why corn illegal to actually plant in certain countries. They buy the rice to corn and so forth. Is that have anything to do with it as well? Does that have anything to do with the aspect of them having to the first time I really seen this corn and this color corn, and I saw it before, but really in a long time. So that is one. I have a couple of questions. One, yeah, you spoke about Trump and what Trump doing in the US, right? Earlier on in the earliest, and then you spoke about and then so I was gonna ask you about you spoke about money and getting in and buying stuff and paying for stuff. Are you guys? I have two questions, right? So one is, are you guys into the aspect of not digital currency, but cryptocurrency? Limited, like Bitcoin.
Yeah, crypto. Right. So earlier on when we was talking, I make a disclaimer because as stated, we do own this platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. Anybody here any shares in the internet?
No, you don't need that. Yeah, no, we don't own nothing.
Oh, you talking to
Limited.
somebody else. So basically the answer is no, because nobody here no shares in the internet. So basically cryptocurrency is something we consider very volatile, right? Let's say they want to create some scare because the planet waking up too much and they decide to bust a EMP and shut the internet off. What going to happen? I know plenty of people talking about wallets and keys and all that type of thing. But when they crash your system, right, and it resets, and all that you have on a key, on a little key that you plug in that you can carry anywhere with your Bitcoin, when all that write off, what are you gonna do then?
Yeah, to go back to bathroom and they're gonna come back to that.
Love it.
I tell you, ask the question. Let's ask the question. But I hear you mention Trump now.
Right? So we have tribe members into cryptocurrency and thing, but they always on a clock. They always watching the time. They always watching what Trump doing. They always this, they always that, because they're not slipping at all. So they're looking to move the trade out as soon as something look different.
No, I was
because
asking,
it's a kind of chance game.
No, I wasn't asking
right?
from that aspect. I wasn't asking from that aspect.
All right.
I was asking from the aspect of you guys utilizing it as a medium. Because for example, like me, I most of like you have a website. Your website your website has to be paid. There's a server you pay every month, a service you pay every month, yeah, every year and so forth, right? I have my website, I have my platform, and I have to pay server fees and everything. And I do have a bank, I do have a credit card, I give the bank to the credit card, I close up the account and so forth, but I still manage to pay my stuff utilizing that aspect now. So that's why I asked. Right? The other question is, you was gonna say something?
No, I was just going to say, yes, some of us utilize it, but it's not something we look as a long-term investment then. right? So we wouldn't have like how people are stashing bitcoins and have a whole heap backup waiting for some big cash out or waiting to use it for something big, or when digital currency take over. Oh, that next thing. Anytime the system goes digital,
Yeah, that's it.
right? And you're operating with Bitcoin and that type of stuff, bet your life you can't flex indigenous, because you'd be tied into the now virtual reality, right? That's where you would need to operate, right? Meanwhile, we still trading in provision, gold, beads, wherever, and you still have to deal with going and pull a passkey out your car. If you say, fuck the government, they come and lock you up or they lock off your finances. That is what would be happening then. That's the type of control a digital system would create, right? So you have to be really how to trusting to trust these people with this type of track record, with that type of volatility, you know what I mean? So we just take it as like, just like how people probably using it for bills now. We have some tribe members use it for whatever they use it for, but never nothing long term in order to incur any losses, any great amount of losses. So we are not against it. We just know that it's some very volatile, right?
My last question
Right.
is, you're familiar with the what is your if you have any type of connection or relation with reference to the Maroons and the Lumi and the Queen of Sheba project that they had, they had a Lumi project recently, some years ago. You tell me it.
I am aware. I am
Right.
aware of it.
Yeah,
What about it?
No. What's it? Yeah. What's your take on the whole, on the, are you supportive of the initiative, or what's your take on it?
No, I am not in support of it.
I don't know. I just asked him.
Right? The Maroons, right? The Maroons, you all need to go and type up the treaty, or probably I should have one of my chiefs and them send it over. But you all should look up the treaty the Maroons have with the Crown. And so anything the Maroons and them doing, basically, we in some conversation with some of the members and saying we now sorting out certain things with them. But basically, there's now part of what we're doing. We do support nothing the treaty stands for, so we do not support the stance of a Maroon. Furthermore, to be Maroon or to be a Maroon, right, is what they were calling runaway slaves. That's what they break down the meaning to. But higher than that, from a maritime perspective, it means that you're shipwrecked, meaning that you're not indigenous to that spot that you're on. So your claim to wherever it is based on, again, the treaty, which is ties to the Crown, which is, again, anti-indigenous. So we can't support it. So no. So I do support that Lumi concept, and also the Lumi concept. The Lumi concept is a concept we do agree with, based on the fact that how it ties in to your operating with them is not something we into. So we're not into, not because people looking for some alternative, we into joining everything that someone look like is an alternative. Anything that promotes the tribal people is what we support. Anything that doesn't do that is what we don't support. We're not into nothing really good and bad. We just into what could carry the tribe people to the highest point of their existence on the planet. Anything that is anti that is anti us. We wouldn't support, we wouldn't do. You know what I mean? It's simple like that.
So I have a question. My question is in terms of, let's imagine Trinidad is governless. How would a country like Trinidad and Tobago strive if an indigenous group is to, take over the sovereign? Well, take over the nation. Reclaim.
I know what you're trying to say, so it's not sovereign. It would be
reclaim.
Right? It would be operating in the fullness of our autonomy. That would look like just what it's looking like on the Solomon Islands, on the islands off of New Zealand. So there are islands that operate with the full indigenous autonomy, right? They operate same way with trades, with corporations, operate the same way. It's just like Once that happens, it's just like a party switch. It's just like what happening now. Elections, bam, a party switch, and because basically the indigenous people style of governance was stolen, and that's why the crown is the all right. Let me just stick up in here. What is the highest court of appeal for this corporation here? Trinidad. The land is not Trinidad. The corporation operating here is Trinidad. Where's the highest court of appeal for? Where does the Privy Council sit?
In England.
Again. Just to say it twice now.
Yeah, England.
Right? Beautiful. Now, are you in the is the corporate government of Trinidad and Tobago independent?
No.
Beautiful. So basically, that's what happening here. All going to happen is the indigenous people going to be governing from the position the crown in right now.
Correct.
So there would be a council that people could vote for and change if they're upset with what they're doing. We could reprimand them and that type of stuff. It was a whole concept that I wouldn't explain here because I do that kind of in-depth things on Google. Right? Google is a real compromise platform, and obviously we operate.
Silla.
Well, I heard our past prime minister who just retired, probably relaxing somewhere about in the world, you know, right after he resigned, he make mention of, you know, the country supposed to switch to the Caribbean Court of Justice, you know, representing the Caribbean and pulling ourselves away from the Privy Council. Would you say there was some sort of influence there?
Where does the judges from the Caribbean Court of Justice get their accreditation?
All right, say less. Say less.
Do not let these people operate as if they are smarter than you. They are not. Do not let them play word games with you because you're smarter than that. Right? That is not a switch. It's called bait to make you think that there's going to do something about the independence of the corporation when they can't. Because here, from the corporations operating illegally from Kariri to Chimaka, right, corporately called Jamaica, they are called by one name in England, right? They are games and all bearing its name. It's called the Commonwealth. Yeah. The question is, whose Commonwealth are they? Right? In other words, pocket change. They're saying that from Trinidad Corporation to Jamaica is the pocket change. That is the Commonwealth. That's what we are accustomed spending, and you know what I mean, we smoke and drink with that and you buy hoes and things with that, you know what I mean? It's just we Commonwealth. And exactly that's what the taxes go for, that's what they use it for, to rape little children and drink the blood. Right? So basically, all these things are tied back into the crown. Right? So anything that you hear operating and they're talking about this change and that change and basically all this election stuff, and this is why every 5 years they have to go back and renew the contract, because they have to get the acquiescence of the people that we are stupid, we are imbeciles, and we need someone to help govern us. That's what you say when they go and dip your finger.
And what about
right?
the like who? Let me think about what I'm saying first. What would be our judge system would be like? What would our jury look like as an indigenous nation? This is like
indigenous people.
This is like manifesting it in itself, in essence, you know, like it is going to happen, you know.
Indigenous people operate by what we would call natural law, right? Natural law is the law all things operate by, right? Laws are things that cannot be broken. It have nobody here on the panel could pay a lawyer to ask anybody else on the panel to breed for them. That is highly impossible. So the law is you must breed. That cannot be bent, it cannot be broken. So it must have a different name for some that could be broken, and they are called rules. Right? So for a justice system operating under indigenous autonomy, it will be operating under natural law, right? And natural law is harm no one and allow no one to harm you, and everything else that is connected to it. Right? You have one law everybody's supposed to be governed by and living by. Right? Live and allow to, or allow to live, or live and let live, what we say in the streets normal. Right? In that your living does not encroach on a next being's living. So you can't tell me that you're living, your living is...
I apologize, my battery dying.
Okay. Right? You can't say that your living is drinking churn. Not I always live by drinking churn blood. That good for you and it is nourish you and keep you young. You cannot say that, because that is not how it's supposed to be. Your living mustn't encroach on somebody else's living.
Right.
And from the time you're doing that, you're going anti-law. You with us?
Yeah.
Right. And so this is what a law system would be looking like under indigenous governance.
So
right?
I would like to ask you,
Go ahead.
what is your message? What is your message? And because you have, I see you come out real powerful on the TikTok and thing, and I want to see more. You know, I would advise everybody here to go follow his platform. So maybe you could share that as well too. You know, so people could be able to, you know, let me because this is what this is about, right? I am one of the things that I am disappointed as a nation and as a people is that, you know, we always ask for change and we always quick to complain, right? We complain about things rather than thinking about what can we do to make a difference, you know. So my question is well, I would like you to you know, help with that. How can we help you? Well, how can I help you? I think I mentioned this already to you already. You know what I do. You know, I do social media, I do events. I am getting my degree in events management, you know. And I think like you have a powerful message, and I think I mentioned to you that already, you know. So
well, if I had to drop a message, it wouldn't it wouldn't be a message I could fit into a short, like a message in a bottle kind of style. But basically one thing I would like to impart with anybody is know yourself. As a being, know yourself. And that is not a light statement, right? Because knowing yourself would take you to where we are, right? It will take you to your genetic memory, it will take you to your ancestral history and all that type of thing. That is what knowing yourself is about. And the reason why we could do what we're doing now is because we learned about ourselves. We connected to what we're doing now, and thus we could operate in our proper status and benefit a whole heap of things that normal people who do not know themselves would not benefit, right? So if I had to impart anything to any being on a short notice, I say, oh, and hope to take it with the depth of saying it with, is, yo, know yourself. You know what I mean? Because in that is a whole heap of things wrapped up in it, and there's a whole heap of stories wrapped up in it. You know what I mean? So that would be the shortest thing. But in terms of media and thing, what you doing, Shane, we have a couple of things on the stream right now. I want to talk to you privately to get an idea of what we're dealing with. In terms of what we're putting out, we have a whole heap of information we put out already that people. The one video that went viral is just basically me talking, skimming the information again. But I also put out stuff where I'm getting it from. And people have a taboo with reading reading sometimes is some people kryptonite, so they're not interested. All the videos we're reading the Spanish document, 200 years old, 300 years old, 400 years old sometimes. They are the lowest amount of views. You know what I mean? And this is where the record, this is where what they call the receipts stand, right? So my wish would be that people go and get into that more, and because we building a research team, and for the information that we dealing with, I calculate for the least 10 people for the research team. I have about 17 books and we only dispatched 2 so far. And there's only 2 new people we add to the team. So all this type of things is, of course, joining the tribe is a process. And from there, we choose the people and then we want to do certain research. I think everybody have a skill that they could come and add to the tribe and that type of thing. And so there's there are avenues. So people interested, I could give.
I think you get muted there, boy.
I don't know if it muted when I switch on to our next page, but I'm gonna get a link to drop in the chat here where you could link up with us, and we could add it into a group that we have where we're discussing these things more in depth, right? So you could transition from there into joining the tribe. So from there now, we could access your words properly, so we could push things forward continually, right? So that's the kind of things we engaging in. So let me just get the link. Oh, it's still there. All right, so good.
So while you're doing that, I will just make reference. So we here, I have a couple of professionals right on this call self that deals with social media. We have a couple artists. Um, we have people. One of the persons who was asking you earlier on in terms of cryptocurrency, you know, he he has a lot of knowledge on some stuff, and I think like if he is, Aaron, you could unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you do websites and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one of the things that we do. I myself, I'm now learning to build my own website, but I have developers as well, and I've been working on a lot of stuff myself. We have our own token.
But that is something that we need as well. We need a website built for the tribe. So that's something we'd like to access
As
as
a
well.
matter of fact,
Well, I actually created two three websites already as well before. So I mean, we could
it's pretty easy once you understand. Well, you have to be in this space, but once you understand it, then it doesn't take that much to really get it done. Nah. As we speak, before I came onto this call, because Shane sent it to me, and I remember I just jumped on the call, but I actually working on another website that I'm building, which is an addition to the platform that I'm actually launching. So
Oh, by the way, guys, Aaron, you could probably just tell the chat what you do as well too in terms of your project is up and running as yet. I saw you posted the other day. That's why I asked.
we basically I want to launch one aspect of the project by the first of is May. Wait, April, May. But I built a project called Balance Life 365. So Balance Life 365, which is focused on more health, relationships, and financial well-being. So my background is more health and wellness, and then for the past 10, 8 to 10 years, I've been in the crypto space. I've seen things come and go. I've seen people get scammed. I've seen a lot of stuff. So I decided to take the knowledge that I've gained and build my own systems. I'm creating. We have a platform. We have a play to earn game. We have a play to earn game. We have our own token, which is an ecosystem token that we will use within the ecosystem. So, for example, if you could come by me, if you come in by me tomorrow and you want to do my aqua fitness class, I will accept payments in our tokens, in our community token, as that. So the more community effort. So I'm looking for like small businesses to bring together to offer that bartering discounted system. Um, I'm also in the process of launching an education platform as well, where I will be, because I have about 12 or 15 ebooks, and I'm now creating an education course, a basic course to teach people about the space. So I want to give people the basic knowledge, not the big space, but the basic knowledge and application to understand. So it's not a ends and be all. You need to know what to do, how to navigate this space, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to live. And unless you are part of a system that is battering and you have rights and you get a person, and you're living off the land 100%, anytime you're working in a job or you use part of the system, partner, you need to find a way to understand the space and you need to know how to navigate, how to get around it. So it's more about solutions to problems. People, for example, people who can't travel, who can't do certain things online. Let me say you have a website, you can't pay your online bills because you don't have a bank account or you don't have a credit card. I can help you get away from that system to utilize other means to get that done. So it's just about community building and collaboration per se.
That's why
But I'm in the process of by May we should have some stuff ready to go. But our website is up and running. Eh? My website has been up for almost a year now, and we have things up and running. It's just push and go. Numbers we need now.
right.
So, Aaron, I would like to ask a question in terms of the website, because you said something in terms of making online purchases if you don't have like a credit card and stuff like that. So, how do you pay online bills with all the credit
I
cards
use
and stuff?
I use cryptocurrencies. I would use crypto. So I have a crypto card that I would utilize to pay to pay online. The problem with you is if you still need to have, because of KYC purposes, some of these companies have the aspect of you have to get the card, to get that Visa card, you have to do KYC. But other than that, uh, it have companies that will accept crypto, that will literally accept crypto, that you don't have to worry about spending or having a credit card to pay, or a credit card to pay. You just use crypto directly. What I am trying to do is what I'm working on, not trying to do, but what I'm creating is a system that a community system, a big ecosystem where we could all benefit in one space. So you don't have to have certain things because you don't have a car, you don't have a bank account, you can't live, you can't get certain things done. Yeah, that's the whole aspect of it. But it takes teamwork to make that happen.
All
And
right,
so
guys.
far,
All right,
yeah.
guys. So Chief just said that he has about 3 minutes again with us. Anybody have any last questions or concerns? Let's try to, kind of wrap this up as well too. We will touch on this again, Chief. If you'd like as well too, we would like to have a further conversation, possibly, at another time that you could have more, and you could choose a topic as well too. I'll let you choose a topic and hold on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, basically, your boy, Justin kind of carry me deep into what we deal with. So what I would say is, I'm guessing like a lot of people on the island have the mental capability very, very skillful. So what I would say is, I would suggest that I put the link in the chat there. What I would suggest is, if you're interested in going any deeper on thing, we want to talk on a different platform.
Sure.
Right. So because I see it very hard for us to stay shallow after a meeting like this the next time we meet up. And I don't want to delve into anything I don't want to talk about on this platform by mistake or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I send the link in the chat there. We could normally I'm finishing up on next class. Normally we do the classes by groups. So what happens if about, let me say, about 3 of you all come across, we could start afresh, and because only accustomed talking with each other, so the class will be more comfortable for you all.
Sure.
And we could go into some depth there. All right. So
yeah,
for those who are interested, I drop it in the chat, the link. You would have to download Telegram from telegram.org. The one from Play Store is compromised. So I put in telegram.org.
Could somebody just copy those links
Yeah,
to me
copy
and
30.
send it for me? Thank you.
Yeah, copy 30.
You use Telegram because it's encrypted.
Send it to me too, please.
All right. Yep.
Yeah,
Using
Aaron,
crypto
by the
man,
way,
so you
Aaron,
know
I
why.
would
Telegram.
also want to
Bye
stay in
bye.
contact with you too, by chance.
Oh,
So
let me just put.
Just follow, link
please.
up on that same link that's in there. You would be able to stay in touch with me
You'll
there.
get a message from Telegram.
Yeah, it's something like WhatsApp, but it more advanced. It could take more gigs.
The Telegram could hold where people, and it's the only encrypted, the most, the one that's really encrypted.
Right
So
now,
that's why scammers use it.
yeah, they lock up the owner of it right now and trying to make him sell out, but he ain't selling out. So he having a hard time in France right now, but
So not for sale.
so the thing does go sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, so it was a good meet. I mean, it's good to meet awakened souls, and it's always a real great thing to see, and we could forward is always something forward. So we give thanks to the ancestors for that, and be already aware that the island has that kind of energy coming with it now, because we were told for by certain connections with our ancestors and things, by simple things that people think is kind of weird, but simple things we do to connect with our ancestors, and we get that kind of direct feedback. You know what I mean? So we expecting all this type of thing to happen. So we are aware, and we're glad to see that it happening. And you know what I mean?
Nice.
We welcome everybody who want to be a part of it. So
Chief, it was a pleasure. I thank you very much for coming on this call. You know, it was great. We need to meet up again. You know,
really,
we had a whole last session.
all right, my brother. Goodness. All right, everybody. Give thanks.
Thank you again, Chief. Thank you.
Aaron, don't forget to link and put also drop a link so that we can also connect to you.
Yeah,
you know, the community, man. Start to get the numbers.
Hold on, let me send my
Pops, you learn a lot.
let me just send
This conversation
I'll just drop my number, right?
I don't know for you all, if you all want to stay on the call. I free for anything. I like to talk.
Justin look like he get a revelation.
I get
my number.
I get some uppercuts. some